so law school, the admissions process is like, it's like a Thanksgiving plate. You got just a few spots and you want to put the best things on there. Like you don't want to put too much dressing because you might want to save a little room for some yams and you might want a little turkey, but you can't have everything. And so you got you got 2 pages, double space to tell me what you want to tell me on this personal statement. You can't tell me about when you were born I'm not going to tell you I was born on November 6, 99 in Arlington. They don't care.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to the episode of the Raising the 5% podcast. I'm your host, Maydrian Lowe.
I'm Maia Young. I'm also a co-host of the pod.
Welcome to another episode. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. And also email anything you'd like us to discuss to raisingthe5%@gmail.com or tag us in a comment on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, all the places and all the things. In this episode, we're talking about clerkships and choosing civil rights with attorney Traelon T. Rodgers. We're going to get into the pod a little bit soon, and we'll jump into this discussion in the episode. Okay, joining us today on the podcast, we have Traelon T. Rodgers, who is a civil rights advocate, constitutional law scholar, and a former federal clerk. He also is a leader committed to advancing justice and equity. Traelon was the youngest officer in the history of the NAACP National Board of Directors. He worked to expand access to legal education and champions the voices of marginalized communities nationwide. Traelon was born and raised in Arlington, Texas, and his passions lies at the intersections of education and juvenile justice. He believes that every aspiring legal mind deserves the opportunity to pursue their dreams, regardless of their background. A graduate of Dillard University and Berkeley Law, Traelon uses his advocacy to break down barriers, create pathways for the profession, and empower the next generation of change makers. Traelon is committed to building a more just future through collaboration and meaningful impact. What's going on, Brother Rodgers? He also made the unfortunate decision of pledging Kappa Alpha Psi, but we'll let him make it besides that. You know what I mean? That's all right. Everybody, all of those beautiful accolades, and then he makes that one decision on the back end. It's all right,
beautiful
though.
Gowns, beautiful.
Hey, man, we crawl so y'all can walk. We were, put some respect on our name.
It sounds good.
Everybody don't want to hop around and bark and
unity. What happened to unity?
UNITY.
You know what she said? You ain't a.
We appreciate you for coming on the pod, brother. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. And was there anything in the introduction that we missed? Anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to highlight about yourself?
Man, I mean, it sounds so good. I'm gonna slide you that 50 after we get off.
Thought I was talking about somebody else, huh?
Oh man, I'm like, wow, who is this?
All right, well, we can go ahead and get it started then. I'll let you lead the way, Maia.
Okay, nice to meet you. And so since we know a little bit about your background, and we just want to start off with like some prelim questions before we get into a lot of the questions that Raising the 5% is really founded on. And so my prelim question is so all of us here on the pod, we are all very tied to civil rights work and specifically work towards the Black freedom struggle. And so like for you, we heard your bio, but what specifically got you involved in civil rights and ultimately led to you choosing this field to work in civil rights?
Yeah, that's like, it's my favorite question, but it's also probably like one of the hardest to answer. But there were like several defining moments in my life that made me, I guess, force me here. It's not, and I say force, but I don't mean force in the sense of like unwillingly, but force is like this is where I've got to be. It's kind of like no other option. And the first was in 2011, Roy Davis was executed by the state of Georgia, in the state of Georgia. He was wrongfully convicted for murdering police officers. And several of his witnesses recanted their testimony, but he still got murdered. And I remember sitting on the couch with my mom watching TV, and she candidly and explicitly leaned over to me, and I was 11, and she said, "This is what happens to Black men in America." And so that's why I do what I do. And that's why I'm on you like I'm on you, because this is what could happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then, from that point on, there was Trayvon the next year, and then Mike Ferguson in 2014. That was my first protest. I live like 6 minutes from the American Airlines Center now, but that was where I first had went to my first protest. And I, remember my sign. I think I've got a picture somewhere, but I was like we all like laid down on the ground in front of the American Airlines Center. And then it's like, it really hit home in 2017. Jordan Edwards was killed by Roy Oliver in Balk Springs,
Mm-hmm.
Texas. And we had several friends in common. I was 17 at the time. He was 15 when he was killed. And I remember going to I was the president of the Dallas NAACP Youth Council at the time. We held a town hall here in Oak Cliff. And then I went to his funeral, and his pastor, his sermon was Me Can't Stand No More. It's from Popeye the Sailor Man. And I just felt like, I just felt like that. I felt like I couldn't stand anymore. And so that's when I started leading the change. At that point, I had been a participant, an active participant, but it was then that I felt like this is the moment. And I've been sort of committed to that ever since. But it's those things, those are some strong whys for me. Those are the strong whys in my life that I can remember how I felt at 11 when Troy Davis was killed. I'm like, can we? Is there like, that's not fair? Is there anything we can do?
Mm-hmm.
And even now, I still feel those things. I mean, we see it every year, several times a year, where it's like, this guy's about to be killed or this woman's about to be killed. Is there anything we can do? And the answer in large part is no. We've done at that point what we can do. And so long answer, but that's why.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. I think especially one thing that I've always noticed, especially with all of us, I mean, now going into the legal field, but even just growing up and being Black youth, like, even when they describe the unjust killings of Black people, it's always in a very adultified manner, because the majority of the people that you've listed, like, they were children, you know what I mean? And yet to recognize the youth that you possess while still being a living person, but the way that they talk about someone else is like a man and suspicious, like all of these really horrible adjectives, it really puts into perspective that, like, I don't know, the livelihood of what it means to be Black, and especially in America, is so defined by like whether you live or die. And so I think those are really good points, honestly, of why that impacted you, because it impacted all of us. Like, I remember all of those names and all of those people you named.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say similar sentiments. Is like, for me, it was Jordan. I think his name was Jordan Davis, Lucy McBath's son, and because he was the same year, I believe, as Trayvon. And I just remember and I lived where Mike Brown got killed. Actually, Mike Brown's death was the reason I moved from St. Louis to Texas, because I lived literally like 5 blocks from where he got killed. And I used to catch the public bus at number 70 to inner city St. Louis to go to school, because the St. Louis County School District had lost its accreditation, and they were graduating students from high school and couldn't get into college because they didn't have no accreditation. And so, but my mom was just like, when Mike Brown got killed, she was like, yeah, no, that's it. You have to go. You got to get to Texas. You got to get somewhere safe where I can ensure that you will be able to grow up and not get caught up by a cop with a gun or by the situations that just are surrounding this neighborhood. Right. Yeah. And so, I definitely understand that, and just understand being I call it like as I think Black children, all of us have this like conscious awakening. And Jordan Davis's killing for me was just like that awakening, because I just couldn't understand how someone decided to take his life because his music was loud. That was bewildering to me. And then went to your hotel room and just ate dinner like nothing happened after it. You know, like nothing happened, like just cold-blooded murder. And that just was like, that was a thing that made me really, really understand that we live under a different set of circumstances as Black folks in this country. And I just wanted to follow up on that. You know, you talked about, for you, that was a point where you stopped being a participant and being an active leader. What was that like, to be at the helm of leadership at such a young age, during such a pivotal moment in the Black freedom struggle in Texas and Balch Springs, but just throughout the country, and like the kind of change that was coming across America in general? What was that like?
Yeah, it was easy, honestly, because nobody was doing anything. So it was like, I mean, nobody, these are like, it's like, these are the jobs that nobody wants. Nobody's like now I think in some ways folks are like, yes, like this is what I want to do, but more so than them. But at that time, it was like, who in the hell wants to go out and sit at a town hall and talk about these issues? It's like, yeah, it's so unfortunate. Like God bless them. We're praying for them. That's let me just keep my baby in school so he doesn't get killed, right? But it was like it was necessary, and I know it was needed. So I felt like I could do it. And for me, there was one time where, there were two times where it was very difficult. Jordan Edwards was one. And the second one was in 2018. I led a walkout in March of 2018 after the Parkland shooting. It was the largest walkout in the history of Dallas ISD. And we ended up on CNN. I mean, they had choppers everywhere, police everywhere. It was crazy. And I keep the notes on my computer even to this day. But I was 18 at the time. There was this white man who said that we're gonna kill that nigger. And he's like, they don't know what they're talking about, and he better hope he doesn't get killed. And so my mentor, who was the mayor pro tem of Dallas at the time, was at the walkout, and he heard what happened, and he told the police officer, the Dallas Police Department, that I want you to walk with him all day long. And when I was in class, he was outside. I mean, it was crazy. And that was the moment where it sort of felt like, to me, my family was like, no, hell no. Like, you're not doing this. But for me, it was like, I got to. And I don't know if it was like I was just young and naive or full of energy, or if I was just tired, or maybe all of the above. But I think it was easy to do it because it was the right thing to do. And I had been raised to do what was right. And then it was also just so disheartening because I couldn't understand what it was about our folks, my people, and young people that would make you say, I'm going to kill you for Skittles. I'm going to kill you for your music. I'm going to kill you over a pack of cigarettes. I'm going to kill you at a playground in a toy gun. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I'm 25. I was 11 when I started. I'm 25 now, and I still don't have the answer. And I don't know that I ever will, but I won't stop. But that's what made me do it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like we've felt that same way. I think whenever even May and I were at PV and we were organizing, we would always talk about like the rage, like the healthy rage, like you see things happening, especially we're learning about these things happening in our classes. And it's one thing to talk about something theoretically, like, okay, yeah, theoretically people's access to water is compromised by systemic racism, or theoretically, yeah, people could die, or people could be caught in violence at the hands of the police. But then to actually see it happen, and even Prairie View itself being a living example of that happening, I don't know, it sparks something in you. So I think that makes sense. I don't think it's naivety. I think everyone's felt that way. You feel so committed to something that it's like, I can't not do something. Like, I have to do something. So I get that.
Yeah. And so we go through all these moments, these defining moments in your life in high school, and then we transition from there, and now we're at Dillard, and you're getting ready to become Traelon Rodgers, the attorney. So talk to us a bit about what undergrad was like at Dillard, and what experiences kind of shaped your decision to become a lawyer. Had you known that prior to going to Dillard, or like what determined that for you?
Yeah, no, I knew I wanted to be an attorney forever. Like even before Troy Davis. Am I saying the right name? Anyway. I'm drawing a blank. I'm having like a senior moment, I guess. I don't know. Anyway.
Elder.
I always knew that. I knew that. I knew that. I knew. Yeah, anyway. I knew from very early on, like even before that in 2011, I knew that I wanted to be an attorney. Like I can even remember my fifth grade project. We had to dress up as like, I don't know what it was called, like a celebrity or someone we wanted to be like. And I dressed up as Johnny Cochran, and I did like this whole report on him. So like, of course, like, yeah.
If the glove don't fit, you must quit. You had a glove?
It was a plastic one, but yes, I did. It was one of those black.
But he was in character for real.
Okay. He wasn't playing. He wasn't playing.
Like I did all out, like, Okay. So yeah, I knew then. But I kind of just knew, but I didn't like know. Like I knew I wanted to. As kids, like, oh, I want to be a doctor, lawyer, of course. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think I ever want to be a doctor. So yeah, I always knew. And then I got to Dillard, and I mean, Dillard was great. I loved it there. It was everything I needed to feel validated. I wasn't looking for validation, but I appreciated it. And so when I got there, I was like, wow, like this one, I wasn't looking for this, but I'm glad that I got it because I needed it. It was like, it was something my soul didn't know. It was something my soul needed, but I didn't know it. And there's a saying that folks down there say is that everything you love about New Orleans is because of Black people. And it's true. Like the food, the culture, it was just like, now don't get me wrong. They got some of the worst customer service uh, in the world.
You
Like,
know,
Wow.
I don't disagree, but I feel like it's good too, right? Like I feel like it's bad, but it's good. You
yeah,
know, like okay. It's like example. You go to Wingstop in Dallas or out here in DC. If you ask for a ranch, that's 50%. If you go to Wingstop in New Orleans, they gonna hand you 5 from behind the counter because they don't give a fuck. They don't care. Like they hear like take it. You know what I mean?
yeah. And it really depends on where you're going. It's like they'll look out for you and like, here you go. So anyway, but it just depends on some way, So but yeah, I love it. The food, the culture, the music, the experience, the community. Yeah, they'll cuss you out, but then they'll be like, hugging you up in just a second. So I really enjoy. I don't know. Am I still answering the question or am I gone off?
It's weird.
Yes.
Yeah.
We in the
You find it.
ballpark. You know.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yes.
It's okay.
It's all
Yeah.
fun and love on the Raising the 5% pod. It's
Yeah.
all good.
Okay, good. I should have brought my club Shay Shay out. I got it up there in the cabinet.
You know, we can take intermission if you need a little
Yeah.
a little refill or so,
Yeah, man, yeah.
But what in particular? So Maya and I went to a public HBCU, and Dillard's a private HBCU. But one thing that we talked about in the previous episode was that Dillard did have a really robust pre-law program that was developing scholars to get into law school. What impact did that have on your ability to get into and succeed in law school?
Hands down, would not have done it had it not been for the lead program at Dillard. Hands down, like it is. At the time that I was in school, from the pre-law program from 2017 to 2021, 2022, there was no school sending students to law school at the rate Dillard was per capita. HBCU, Black students, PWI, HBCU. There are about, I don't know, 30 to 40 of us from that 4 or 4 or 5 year period who are either in law school, just got out of law school, or practicing.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was all because of one person.
Yeah.
Well, she probably one woman to say that, but it was. Yes.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's really. Can you explain a bit more what the program was, like what it encompassed?
So it started off as like just a LSAT program, LSAT prep program. And that was from the years of like 2014 to 16, something like that, somewhere around that time. And then it turned into a holistic program. So they got this grant from Access Lex, and what they did was the program was they did a pre-program in the summer for juniors. Yeah, pre-program in the summer for like, I guess a week or 2 weeks, maybe a week. And you just kind of get a gauge. You weren't guaranteed admittance in this. The program is called LEAD, Legal Education Advancing Diversity, LEAD, LEAD.
Okay.
So you did pre-lead for the 7 days, I believe, or something like that. And then you weren't guaranteed, but it's like little babies, like go hard. These are tryouts. So you may have gotten in the next year. So it was like 6 months long. You started in January. You took the June test. It was part of the requirement. You paid $150. It wasn't, you weren't getting any. It was worth way more than $150, but that was for just to show that you're invested. And we had
nominal payment.
Right, we had 2 instructors. One did something, another one did something. I don't remember what it was. And then after you got done with the studying for that 6 month period, you took the test in June, and it was like, I guess 2 nights a week, like Tuesday and Thursday or something. You would go into class for like 2 hours, and then in the fall, after you've taken the test, You would have admissions workshops. You would have, personal statements and all that kind of stuff. So it was a holistic thing. It wasn't just a LSAT prep. It was like, we're going to check you out. We're going to make sure you're good. We're going to introduce you to admissions directors and deans of admissions and schools. And we're going to help you apply for financial aid. We're going to help you get scholarships, tell you what schools you could probably get into with these scores. It was just like a whole thing. And a lot of the students went to school for free because of it. So, you start off, I don't remember the average, but I had a 15-point increase from my diagnostic before I got in the program in my actual exam. So, I mean, folks were jumping up tremendously. Like I said, 15 points, 20 point. Well, I don't know about 20. I'm sure there was there were absolutely 20s. And I started off in the 140s. So I jumped up.
Wow.
Yeah. So even if you were like, there were folks who started off in the 150s jumping up. So it was like, everybody got something. It was like Oprah, like everybody got something.
You get a raise.
So like, okay, you said that y'all were doing 2 nights a week, and then after the admission workshops, was that hosted? Because I know you said they got a grant from Excess List. Was that hosted by Dillard professors? And if so, do you think that was something that, obviously you said it helped you with law school, but did it help you really establish a connection with them, or even just like wanting to give back, even with you now doing this episode with us? Like, did it increase your want to even go to law school even more and to be a resource or for other people, especially those who are in Dillard? Because you said all of y'all who are actually in the program either went to law school, graduated law school, or practicing. So that kind of, it sparked something in you to then be a resource or an inspiration to other people.
Yeah, well, and let me go back and clean that up. So I forgot to mention that the program was for Xavier, SUNO, Southern University of New Orleans, and Dillard students. So it was all 3 HBCUs in the city, but it was hosted at Dillard. So the program director and founder, Adria Kimbrough, started the program, but she wanted to make sure that all the students in the area were able to participate. So it was all exclusively at Dillard, but it was not only open to Dillard students. And so there was like an interview process. You had to interview to get in the program because there were limited spots, maybe 20. I can't remember. But so, yeah. So, some folks didn't make it through the program. Some folks didn't get scores high enough. Some folks just decided law school wasn't for them and they dropped out the program. Mm-hmm. But to answer your question, yes. So it did. Absolutely. So I was a teacher assistant for that program the next year after I did it. So you do it your junior year. Something's in my eye. So I did it the next year. And since then, I've worked for Access Lex for 4 years in some capacity. So I was a part of the first group. So Access Lex has a pre-law post-baccalaureate program, the first one. And I started off with that program in 2021 as a pre-law coach. Then I didn't work with the program as helping redesign the curriculum. And then 2 years, the following 2 years, I was a grader for the program. So, and then I can't tell you the number of personal statements I read a year. I can't tell you the number of diversity statements I read a year or folks that I meet. I actually was part of the student admissions team for Berkeley Law, and went and traveled to recruit folks and make connections with HBCU programs. I went to Morehouse, Clark, and Spelman. I went to University of Pennsylvania and worked at one of their fairs and recruited Black students to go to law school. I did it at Dillard and continue to make connections. Even now, I talked to the dean of admissions, I guess, maybe this summer or this spring about connecting with Xavier and Dillard. So yeah, I mean, I think I know certainly that it sparked an interest, because it's not that Black folks don't not get into school because we're not good enough. It's just that we don't know the tricks. We don't know the games. Like, we don't know, like, I tell people before they change the LSAT, it's like, your goal is to get 15 right on each section. You got 4 sections in the fifth and experimental. If you get 15 questions in each one right out of 24 or whatever, you don't need to get 20. You just got to get 15 right. And you may not have to get 15 in all 4. If you get 20 here and 10 here, all you need to do is equal to 60. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Folks don't get that, but it's like, it's a game. I've got to think of it that way so I can at least, and not saying you're going to get 15, 15, and 15, or 15, 15, 15, 15, and get into law school anywhere, but you're going to be able to get into somebody's law school, and you can also get into somebody's law school and go for free.
Mm.
But, we've been told like, okay, I want to go to Harvard. I've got to have a 170.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, no, that don't work for you. Or, I'm like, that's not real. You're not, no. And then they say, well, I'm Black. I got a good score. I can get into Howard. I've also seen people with the 170s get turned away, for 165s to get and up, get turned away from Howard. So it's like, it's not just like,
because the deadline closed on April 1st and you applying on March 29th.
You're not getting it, baby. Oh.
Or you got folks who just, it's like, okay, I've got this wonderful score, and then I'm going to get somebody to write this letter of recommendation for me who's an alum, but the alum is repeating your resume. Or you've got a personal statement and you're just telling us how life has been so hard. It's like, oh my gosh, brother, like, I'll hand you some tissue and I'm going to take a few for myself because this is such a sad story, but you're not getting in.
I'm getting in. Okay.
Yeah, I don't care. Like, I'm sorry that happened to you. It's very sad. Like, I'm sorry that happened. But like,
and that is funny because there's a narrative, I think, on TikTok, but in general, that Black sob stories get admissions, and that's you gotta
don't care.
Something. They don't care. I'm sorry to tell you, they don't care.
It's not a major.
Everybody's got their something. Like, we all have our something. I can make you sad right now that I skipped lunch, but
yeah.
What about it?
But I ain't finna buy you no lunch either, though.
Right. Like, you feel bad for me. Like, yeah, you should eat.
Do you have a tip for people, since, like you said, you've been on admissions teams and you were also doing that pre-law and while you were in law school? Do you have a tip, even just like a one-liner or something, for people who are applying to law school or who are thinking about tailoring their application, that their personal statements should include? Because it's not always a sob story. Like, from someone who's actually on the team, what are admissions people looking for?
So law school, the admissions process is like, it's like a Thanksgiving plate. You got just a few spots and you want to put the best things on there. Like, you don't want to put too much dressing because you might want to save a little room for some yams and you might want a little turkey, but you can't have everything. And so you got 2 pages, double spaced, to tell me what you want to tell me on this personal statement. You can't tell me about when you were born I'm not going to tell you I was born on November 6, 99 in Arlington. They don't care. You have to have a theme. Like, just pick your theme and then answer these questions. Why do you want to go to law school? Why do you want to go to law school now? What will you bring to the school, and why will you not? What's the return on investment? What's the ROI if we let you in? So they want to know why now? Why law school? Why now? What will you bring? And what's the ROI? Are you going to get here and be successful? Law schools want to know that you're going to help them keep up their ABA, keep their accreditation. They're not going to drop their rankings, and that you're going to come and be a productive member of their community. But at the same time, you can do that while being authentic about your story, but you can't tell us everything. And so if your sob story is the reason that you want to go to law school and the reason you want to become an attorney, then yes, tell it. But tell it in such a way that expresses that you have the ability to think critically, analytically, that you're studious, that you are a leader, that you take initiative, that they don't have to worry about you not coming to class. Like, tell those things, talk about perseverance, talk about triumph, and talk about how you be, bettering the community or bettering the legal society. And then also, I think it's important to know that your recommenders have to also say the same things about you. You can't have I told somebody the other day that I went to the school at Berkeley with the daughter of a United States senator. And it's like, I'm sure she has access to people who can write her wonderful letters with big names. Mm-hmm. Because you have somebody like, when I was applying for law school, I was on the board at NAACP. None of them wrote me letters for law school. And some of those folks are just like, I could have gotten the president and CEO of the NAACP to write one. But I also could get the person in the community who has seen me do the work for forever, who can talk about who I am and what I've done in a way that...
And the impact you've made.
The impact, yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I was on the board at NAACP, I had an impact certainly, but it was nothing like when I was out here on the ground marching. So your recommenders have to be that way. And then embrace the fullness of who you are. When I wrote my diversity statement to Berkeley, I talked about being a Black Texan. I talked about how I love my cowboy boots, how I drove a F-150, how I love country music, and how that was a part of me. And it was in some ways, what made me different, but it was also some ways that would make me an asset to the Berkeley community, because the law schools want diversity and they want people to bring something that's unique. It had nothing to do with my political ideology. It had nothing to do with my stance on life. It was just literally like, I love this music. I love my truck and I love to wear my boots. And I got in, right? It's like,
Right.
it's not like I'm saying something so profound and like everybody has to be like, everybody got to be deep. We feel the need to be just as deep. And it's like, bro, it's not even that serious. Like, just tell me who
Stand
you
up.
are.
The water ain't that deep. Stand up.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
They just want to see something different. They just want to know who you are and what you're going to bring here.
Yeah, that's good. And I think that's a good pivot point, too, because, you know, all of us are HBCU undergrad, PWI, law schools. So what was that transition like? And what was that experience like?
Well, but you was in California. It was still like that in California.
So hold on. Let me get the question out. Okay. This is a two-part question. So one, what was the transition like for you from HBCU to PWI? So undergrad, HBCU, PWI. And then the second part is, what was that like being a Texan, a Black Texan, going to California? And I guess those are kind of the same things, but those two experiences, how those two things tie into each other.
Yeah, man. So, yeah. It was different. It was different. Yeah. Like, I kind of had gotten used to just like, so I got to law school at 21 and everybody was older than me.
You too, Maia, huh? You was at 21?
I turned 21 in law school, yeah.
Okay.
And it was different. It was like, wow. So I had to deal with that first. It was like hang on, like all y'all like y'all going home to y'all's children? And like, what am I gonna do? It's like, but then it was also the thing of like, so that's number one. Number two was that there was no, really, I couldn't relate. All the Black folks there went to PWIs and they were like the Harvards and the Browns, the Smiths, the Dartmouth. And then the ones who didn't, it's like, oh, you went to Howard, or I went to Spelman or Hampton. And I'm like, oh, I went to Dillard. And I was like, where'd you go to school? I was like, oh, in New Orleans. I know. It's like, oh, I went to I went to Tulane. I was like, I went to school in New Orleans too. And they're like, oh, where? UNO? I was like, no, Dillard. Dillard? And I'm like, yeah. And so then you tell the rest of the folks, like, oh, I went to Dillard. Where's that at? And so then, like, I was on the real struggle bus. I was like, I didn't go to one of those HBCUs that everybody knows. It's like, oh, I never heard that. Did you go to, isn't that the Golden Nuggets? I'm like, no, that's Xavier. Oh, I don't know that. I'm like, yeah, what's the oldest HBCU in the state? God forbid. But right. We crawled. So it was difficult though because of those things, but then also culturally. So I grew up in Arlington, and like I tell folks all the time, my next door neighbor, bless you, voted for Romney, McCain, Bush, and me and his kid play basketball together every day. They closed their door
4 times,
probably. Yeah. We would come outside. We went to school together, rode the bus together. We eat over each other's house. I would swim in his pool. We play basketball together. And, I'm like John Witherspoon, like anyway, I'll keep that to myself. But go inside, I'm sure they said things about us and I'm sure we said things about them. I'm like, so, I was used to that. I was used to like, we can have our differences, but at the end of the day, what connects us is our humanity. We're just humans. We got things in common. We both trying to make it. Gas is high here. Gas is high to you. Gas high to me. And so that's how it was. But I got to Berkeley and it was like this thing that I found. So I said that to say that I'm a moderate Democrat. I'm like a Southern Black Democrat in the traditional sense. And so I got to Berkeley and they had this take it or leave it approach. Like, we want all or nothing. And I'm like, what do you mean you want all or nothing? What power do you have? I'm like the Jeffersons. Do we overcome and nobody tell me? How do how do we have so much power? Like, how can you tell someone that you have to do this for me? And they have this mentality. It's like we've got it just so bad that you have to give me this. And if you don't give me this, I'll guilt trip you into giving it to me because we need it, because we deserve it. Do we deserve it? Absolutely. Should I guilt trip you into giving it to me? No. And should I judge you for thinking differently than I do? No. And so as a me being me, I won't keep just listing out all the adjectives, but me being me, I was like, y'all, they said they would give us X, we can do 60-40, but y'all won't go unless you get 100. Oh yeah, because they got it. Oh, okay. Well, they got it. They giving 60-40, but you'll take 0 because they not giving you the 100. Yeah, it's the principle. Okay. I'm like, okay, whatever. None of my business. I wasn't fighting in Berkeley. I was just chilling out. I decided that I was going to do what I need to do to be successful in law school. I was not protesting nothing. And so that was that. So I remember, we had the COVID shots and the masks. And when they lift the mandate, I took mine off instantly. And they all like, oh my God. It's like, you're not scared? I'm like, no, I get it. I had it 2 times at that point. I'm like, I get it again. I'll be fine. And so I remember one girl was like, yeah, Traylon in here with COVID. And and then this came up to me, it's like, if you don't care about your life, at least care about mine. And I'm like, I'm sitting in the back of the room by myself in this 300 people classroom and you have a mask on. Do you not trust yours enough? Or is it that you just want me to do what you want me to do? And the answer was obvious. She just wanted me to do what she wanted me to do. But it was the Black folks that I had the issues with. I mean, eventually we got, over time, they realized that I was going to do what I was going to do. And it wasn't ill-intended, but it was just that I think there's a world, right. And there's a world in which we can all exist so long as we respect each other's opinions. And I was never disrespectful and I don't take disrespect, but I'm not going to fit into a mold that I don't want to. Life is too short to do things that you don't want to do. And so I don't. And another instance was here in Texas, we say Hispanic. I got to California and called somebody, I said, this is the Hispanic lady. You would have thought I said the most derogatory and racist term you'd ever thought of. And rather than educating me, they chastised me and villainized me. And so that was my thing. I'm like, if there's something that I'm doing wrong, I don't mind being taught, but I have a problem with being chastised and demonized. And that's what I think that we have a problem with as Black folks in liberal and progressive spaces, is that we like to demonize and chastise. And the cancel culture, in my opinion, is just so nasty. I hate it. If you don't want to support someone, I don't think you should. Just don't. And if you want to bring people along, then do it. But be careful, because you can be on a chopping block yourself for something that you didn't mean. And I think we all make mistakes. And I think anybody who is not willing to learn is a fool. But we got to figure out and be discerning between who the fools are and who the folks who are just uneducated and miseducated. And that's what I think we don't care enough about.
Yeah, I definitely think we have had some similar experiences. So Maya went to law school I let her talk to that about being in a progressive, but also extremely racist space.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And I went to law school in a very conservative space, right? And so I think for me, it was more so like, what's interesting, I always tell folks, as a Black man, I feel like my personhood is more threatened in liberal spaces than it ever is in conservative spaces. The spaces where I have felt less safe are in cities that are quote unquote liberal, blue leaning cities. Like when I was in Miami, when I was in like around the people who weren't people of color in those types of cities for extended periods of time, the looks, the way in which people interact with me. DC, living here, this is the first experience I've had with white people on a consistent basis in a liberal city where I don't question the authenticity of their kindness. I can say that about DC. But in every other instance, I feel like in law school for me, the transition, it wasn't this, it was Texas. So, you know, the variants of conservatives don't really change much in Texas. It just, the accent just changed. That's all. So, you know what I mean? So I think, the assumptions about me was, you know, I'm big black, I'm probably on the football team. So nobody really bothered me, nothing like that. It was just, he's out here doing that. And I didn't really have, you know, those microaggressions, or you must play ball for the team and stuff like that. But there was never that level of like, disengagement or like pushback from the black community. I think in my experience, it was so few of us. The issue with going to law school and those type of spaces, that the black folks that are there, being someone who went to an HBCU, I was the only person with an HBCU degree my first year. The second year, somebody from my alma mater came there with me. But even so, the other folks that were there were people who also were WPWI graduates or double red raiders, and didn't have the same appreciation or the same thought about blackness that I did. So I found myself often over explaining things about blackness that I thought were just like mutually understood, which were mutually understood at HBCUs. Like, I didn't have to explain this. I didn't have to. And the BOSA was a safeguard for me in that regard, because it was more black folks who thought, with all its problems and all its flaws, for the better part, it was a lot of black folks who thought similarly about the way in which we should approach the profession and creating opportunities for those that come after us. And that just was not my experience holistically with the people I went to law school with that were black at my law school.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I don't know. Vermont is a very interesting place. I had never been to Vermont before going to law school. Only thing I knew about Vermont was like Bernie Sanders. And ideally, I think people would see Bernie Sanders to be a very, very liberal, very left-leaning person. And then you get to Vermont and you see people who like love Bernie Sanders, and they're racist. They're like the most racist people you ever meet. It's like, okay, this is weird. You know, there's Bernie out here, there's Ben and Jerry's, like, what's up? And I remember even connecting with Black alum, because at my school, I think in my graduating class last year, I want to say there was maybe like 9 of us, I don't know, less than 10, or if not 10 in the entire class. And we lost some people. So like maybe we started off with some people. My school had an AJD program, so people could come and graduate in 2 years. They just do 6 semesters like throughout the summer. So they just no breaks.
Oh, that sounds awful.
It is. No, it's horrible.
It sounds great to me.
I know someone who did it. She loved it, but she also did like a double bachelor's in undergrad. So she's just a genius. But I don't know, Vermont is a very interesting place. And so like talking to Black alums, they were talking about how when they first got to my town, because Vermont is also very rural. So I wasn't in, you know, where Bernie be at. He's in the city, the big city, Burlington. No, I was in the boonies. I was in South Royalton, next to farms and cows and
the subway that closed at 8 p.m.
Listen, the way that I would tell May all the time, get me out. Free me. I don't know how you gonna get here. Pick me up. Okay, I got to get out of here. There's one way in, one way out. I never saw snow, but that's a whole different conversation. It was just, I don't know how I got there. But they were talking about how people in the town would like take pictures of them. And they're like, this is the first Black person I've ever seen. And you hear stories like that, and it's like, okay, because we started school in 21. So it's like, okay, it's, you know, it's after 2020, you would think, you know. But then having like the microaggressions and people just coming up and like staring at you, or like asking like, where are you from? Or how did you get here? They would always see my car. And one time someone accused my parents of like, they're like, are your parents like drug dealers or something? Like, how do you have this car? Where are you from? How did you get it here? I don't know, babe. I shipped it. I don't know nothing about that. I'm just here. And you start to realize as you go, especially I think East Coast, because I was by New Hampshire, and you see it's very interesting. Like even when you think about how people talk about the civil rights movement, right? And how even prior to that, there were poor white people who were on the same level. Like they could theoretically think about the ways in which they're disenfranchised. Like they don't have land, they don't have access. But when they see Black folks or even non-Black folks who are also in that position, there then becomes a level of like superiority that like, I can't relate to you. I still think I'm better than you. And it's like Vermont had no access to food. I had to go to New Hampshire to do my grocery shopping, New Hampshire to do a lot of the basic things, like 15 minutes. There was no real grocery store in my town. It was a co-op they charge like $10 for Cheerios. Bye. Not doing that. And so you think about the ways in which people who are really disenfranchised, like you're essentially living in a food desert. You know, when the town flooded in like my second year, you couldn't leave. There was no way to get out. We don't have snow plowers. Like when it snows, people come, but the town itself is like, it's a town. So there's no like city council. There's a select board and it's volunteer. People from my school who were professors were on the select board. So it's like, this is just, I don't know.
This is an experiment.
It's an experiment. And you start to think about the ways in which like you can see these things and it's like, okay, this is a little odd. Like you would think people would be more concerned about the fact they don't have like water and access than the fact that like there's Black people living in your town. But they were not. They were actually like, what are you doing here? I'm actually very scared. Like, how are you here asking you questions about like your humanity, your hair, the way you talk, the way you speak? And it gets to a point, I think, where you start to realize, like, I mean, liberal, progressive, like, people in terms of seeing how they see Blackness, it's always going to be a very weird thing to them. And I think as someone, like, who is a Black person, it's like, why are you scared? Like, I'm a little confused because I'm having to kind of prove my humanity to you in a way that, like, you don't have to do to me, in a way that no one else has to do to me. But I have to make sure that, like, literally just me being here.
They de-arm you all the time.
Every single time. When in reality, I'm actually just as scared as you. Like, I'm actually more scared of you than you are of me. I need to figure out what
you got all the damn power.
And they believe in you. They looking at me like I'm the witch. Like I'm trying to come. It's confusing. And so I don't know. I can definitely see that point. I think we can all relate to like going from an HBCU to a PWI. Because I say to me all the time, like, I think PV spoiled us. And I feel like you would think the same with Dillard. Like, I think going to an HBCU really cements your viewpoint of like how you see the world. And also in a way in which, how you said, like, you don't really need validation, because I think you come to learn that within yourself. But to go somewhere where you see, like, at least for PV2, the diaspora was in full effect. You know, like, it's not like you're just not going to school with Black Americans. You're going to school with Caribbeans. You know, you're going to school with Africans. You know, you're going to school with so many different cultures, so many different languages. Even Maia and I, we got to go to Equatorial Guinea. Our last year, the only Spanish-speaking country in Africa. And the way that we was looking at people who look like us, and they like, hola, hey.
Vamos.
Como esta? I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And but it's crazy.
Poquito, baby.
Poquito.
I don't think that much.
But it's crazy to think about that. And so, like, even no matter how far apart we are in the world, like, even when we met them in EG, it felt so, like, familiar. But then to go somewhere, and I think law school also does something to people's psyche, because when you meet Black people in law school, they're either, like, you know, they get it or they don't. And most of the time, they don't. And so it then becomes it feels like a battle. It's kind of like, obviously, like, we all here for the same. What happens to you is going to happen to me. But, like, why are we having this internal conversation when we got real issues going on? Like, they don't really want us to be here. They don't want us to succeed here. They don't even think that we should have even gotten to apply here. And we talking about what, like, semantics? We talking about practice? Like, no. So I definitely understand that. I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah, man. I had another point, but I forgot it. So we're going to press on. We can press on to the final part of the little segment and talk about clerking. And so for people who don't know what clerking is in general, I'll give a bit of a background. And Traylon, please feel free to supplement the answer however you feel necessary. So clerking is basically an opportunity to work for a judge either at the federal or state level, and for someone to be in a close community, a close-knit circle with the judge and the court staff to really craft opinions and create really like legal outcomes in cases. I guess the judge has like the ultimate say, but this person is the person doing all of the fact checking and the resourcing and sitting in court while trials are happening and dispositive motions and things that are really coming before the judge. And it's an opportunity that affords law students and recently cemented lawyers the chance to get like very exclusive hands-on courtroom experience. And there's a bit of a difference between clerking at the federal level. I don't know that district court judges in the state level have clerks. Do they have clerks at the state level?
Some, yes, that's what they call them, but it's not the same thing. Yes.
Okay.
Short answer, yes.
Short answer is yes, but they definitely have state courts have clerks at like the Supreme Court level
Mhm.
for all states across the country. If you're a law student, you're familiar with that pre-law. That may be something that do some research about. But Traylon, feel free to give a better explanation of that and kind of talk a bit about clerking in general.
Yeah, no, well, I just want to add one thing. So you said recent law and newly submitted attorneys, but so for on the federal level, there are two different types. You've got career clerks and you've got term law clerks. Term is either 1 or 2 years on the district court in the appellate or court of appeals, and then on the Supreme Court. I think I actually don't know how long their terms are. Usually, I think 1 year, but I think they have more latitude. You know, they don't have as many guardrails as the appellate and the district court
District
does.
Court.
District court can either have 2 or 3 clerks. So if you've got 2 clerks, that means that the judge also has a secretary, usually, or a judicial assistant. If you've got 3, that means that they don't. And then there's magistrate judges in the district court level who have 1 clerk or 2 if they don't have a judicial assistant. On the Court of Appeals level, I believe they have 4. And on the Supreme Court level, I have no idea. And then the career clerk means that you can stay as long as you want to. And then the term clerk, like I said, is for that term. But I said that to say that I know folks who have been attorneys for 3 or 4 years and decide like, I want to do a clerkship and just turn back around and go do a clerkship. So it really is beneficial just about at any point in your baby attorney career. I wouldn't say, I don't know any partner that was like, oh yeah, I'm a partner and now I'm going to go back and clerk. Like, what do you get from it? In fact, you lose a whole lot by going back because as everybody probably knows, well, some people don't, but working for the federal government is not very lucrative. So if you're a partner at a big firm, you're likely not going to want to go back. But I think you hit it on the head pretty good. That's the only thing I would add.
Yeah, and that's a good distinction because people definitely do that. What made you want to decide to clerk? Can you talk a bit about what advice or what insight you have as a Black person who has clerked, and talk about like maybe the exclusivity of clerking and things, the Article 3 clerkships, I guess we should say, and things like that? Because I think clerkships are a bit taboo, I think, because, like for me going into law school, I didn't even know that clerking was a thing. I didn't know like it was something that was so high regarded. Like I didn't know like the difference having a federal clerkship can make on like your employment opportunities, on your resume. So talk a bit about like how does that open up your world as a Black lawyer?
Yeah, so I wasn't even interested in clerking, to be honest. It was just something that I don't know where it got sparked up, but I was like, you know what? Like, I want to, well, actually, I'll take that back. I don't know how it got sparked up, but I was like, I want to try this out. So and I knew I wanted to come back home. It was not an option for me to go anywhere else. I knew I wanted to be back in Dallas. And the first Black federal judge in the Northern District of Texas, which is like, I think 100 and something counties, the largest in terms of geographical area in the state. It goes from Abilene, Amarillo, all the way down to Wichita Falls, back up to Rockwall, got Dallas, Tarrant, all of those, several divisions. But I knew I wanted to be here. The first Black federal judge was appointed in 1998 by Bill Clinton. His name is Sam Lindsay. Before he was appointed, he was the first Black city attorney for the city of Dallas. And at the time, the highest paid city attorney in the entire state of Texas. And then in 2019, there came another Black judge, Judge Ada Brown, who was appointed by Donald Trump and has been there since 2019. So it was 21 years after Judge Lindsay was appointed that he got we got another Black judge here in the Northern District of Texas. So I knew I wanted to work for him, and it was either Judge Lindsay or bust. And actually, there was my fraternity brother, Judge Carlton Reeves, who's the chair of the Sentencing Commission, and he's a judge in the Southern District of Mississippi. I think it's Southern District. Anyway, he's in Mississippi, in Jackson. He came to Berkeley, and he sort of sparked something for me. And then there was another judge who was a Dillard alum, is in the Eastern District of New York, Aurelia Merchant. And so those two judges sort of made me like Judge Merchant wanted me to come up to New York. We got a Dillard connection, but I was already fed up with all the anyway. And so then I also didn't want to go to Jackson. So I applied to Judge Lindsay. Actually, it's actually pretty crazy. I posted on Facebook after I got the idea. So I talked to one of my fraternity brothers who was in the boule with Judge Lindsay, and he sent Judge Lindsay an email in 2023 after we left our our conclave in Tampa for Kappa. He and I talked on the plane. My fraternity brother, James Mitchell, who is now passed. And then I posted on Facebook asking if somebody knew of any judge.
Sure did. I remember that.
Right. Any federal judges looking for a clerk. And so one of my family friends who's an attorney here in Dallas, Samaj Garrett, says, let's set this up. Let's set up lunch and I want y'all to meet. So we went to, I'd known of Judge Lindsay, but I'd never met him. So we met up at Albernays. I was just as nervous as I can be. It's a steakhouse. We met up at the one on Oak Lawn. And on the other side of our booth was the former mayor of Dallas, Mike Rawlings. Yeah, no G. I walk in, see him, and I used to serve on the youth commission here in Dallas, so I was familiar with him and knew him. And then there goes Judge Lindsay and Samaj, and I was just as nervous as I can be. And it was like on from that moment. It was like a grilling session. I know y'all didn't ask for this, but I'm giving it to y'all. And
it's
it was
real,
like,
because this is how people get clerkships.
Right. And I don't know a better way to say this, but it happens this way for certain people more than you believe. Who do you know? My cousin knows this person, or my dad went to school with this person, or they were roommates, or this, that, and the third. Folks will tell you that they've had such a great resume. They will tell you that they write so eloquently and spoke so well during their interview. But the reality of it is that their father and that judge went to school together, right? So I didn't feel bad one bit. I don't feel bad even now. I'm a nepo baby, and it just worked just fine for me. I was glad about it. And so we went to eat, and Judge, I wasn't sure that I was going to be, I didn't know that it was going to be an interview. I thought I was going to meet him. I didn't know it was going to work like that. And he grilled me for at least an hour. And then he goes, yeah, did you see that video of those folks out in Alabama? And I said, with the boat? He said, yeah. And I said, wow, yeah, I did see it. And so after that, I was like, okay, so he's human. So, but to answer the question now that I've gone all around the world, the benefit of a federal judicial clerkship is insurmountable. It is just like, I can't even explain it. The connections that you make, the legitimacy that it adds to your inexperience, and the relationship that you build with the judge, if you do it the right way, is second to none. I mean, Judge Lindsay and I have talked every single week since I left on August the 22nd. That's been 5 weeks. We've talked at least once a week. This week we've talked 3 times, which is more than I'd like to, but we have. And so it's challenging in many respects, because I had a moment where Judge was out and at the Fifth Circuit conference in Florida, and we had this guy who was getting ready to be executed on Friday, and we got an emergency stay on Wednesday. Judge had the case some kind of way in 2000, but it was really a state case, but he had something to do with it in 2000. So, like the jurisdictional issues that you get to see between state and federal is really interesting to see too. Not jurisdictional issues, but like jurisdictional, I guess, who has it. And so anyway, the guy was set to be executed on Friday. This was a Wednesday. Judge was out at the Fifth Circuit conference until Monday. I've essentially got this man's life in my hands. Do I write an order and ask Judge to go to FedEx Kinko, or I don't think they call it Kinkos anymore, but FedEx, and pick up this thing I'm about to scan him and sign it and send it back to me? It's like, what do I do? Do I call him and interrupt him during the session? So it's like you see things, and it also allows you to be independent, but also get that great experience from a one-on-one perspective, hands-on. I'm working for one person. He's critiquing everything I see, everything I have. He sees it and he approves it. Or, we may go 8 or 9 rounds. You've got to have tough skin. You've got to have thick skin. You've got to be open to constructive criticism, and sometimes non-constructive criticism. Some judges are mean and some judges are nice. And it's like, when people ask me what I did, I told them I was a ghostwriter for a judge, because I have no other way to explain it. I'm like, I'm a speech writer for a judge, essentially. I write like when you see, if it's got, I did all the even cases. If you see, if it ends in an even number, from the rooted to the tutor, I did it. Whether it's 30 pages or whether it's 3, I did it. And I started it. And mostly those are, my stuff. And judge fixes it up and he writes in his voice and that sort of thing. So, of course, it was all approved by him and we went through several rounds of edits, but it really made me grow as a person. I got thicker skin than I ever thought I needed. And then I also I just went on the deep end in so many different matters and so many levels. And then just this last thing, I will say that folks will try to tell you that you don't need a clerkship, just go get the money. But let me tell you, it's important to take that sacrifice because the things that you'll learn and the connections that you'll make, you cannot get them anywhere else. And then I'll also say that it's important to try to get a federal clerkship because state clerkships are good, but they are not treated equally. They do not. And I'm not being elitist, but the profession, as y'all know, is elitist. And I'm just being real.
Elitist.
Yeah.
Extremely. Yeah.
Happily, actually. Like,
yeah.
They love being elitist. Yeah.
They love it.
Yeah. And that goes to the greater point, I think, that you raised earlier about when we were talking about like LSAT scores and students really just not committing that thing. And something I talk to people a lot about, and what Maia and I talk a lot about too, is that, it is it's unfortunate how many Black students, this regime and this culture that we're in now is different. But when we were applying to school, and I'll say while we were in school, is so many students missed the mark or missed opportunities because they were unwilling to just commit to that extra little bit of work to get into some of these spaces. And I think it's hard to really explain to people how elitist this profession is until you're in it. Like it matters. Like everything matters. Where you went to school, even if you didn't go to the best school, what you did at the school you went to. Did you do law review? Did you do journal? Did you do competitions? All these things matter so much, and people just don't understand. It's just this information gap, which is why we're here, though. Which is why Raising the 5% is here, and it has been birthed as a consequence of that. So I guess now we can explain the three Ps format. Maya, you want to take that, or you want me to do it?
No, we can do it. So
Okay.
as you've seen, we've done the 3 points, Traylon, and we've been asking you different questions. And so, like May said, we really want this podcast and also this resource to be very real, but we have a foundation of kind of listing and talking about the 3 Ps. So the first P is pre-law, which is what we talked about your time at Dillard, how you navigated from an HBCU to a PWI. And then we also talk about the second P, which is pursuing the JD. So your time at Berkeley, what it's actually like to be a law student. And then the third P is practice, which is like your clerkship, so we want to talk about all those different things, not even just through this episode, but throughout this podcast. But since we've done this within this episode, we want to ask you now, if you had a favorite of the 3 Ps that I've named that we've asked you, you can kind of choose a category and then we'll ask you a final question from each of those 3 Ps. So you kind of get to choose what you want to talk about in your closing. And the 3 Ps again are pre-law, pursuing the JD, and practice.
Yeah, I think probably pre-law.
Pre-law?
I think.
All right. Let's jump into it. I'll find something from here. We got a whole big ass list.
We got a lot of questions.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think that's it for me. Pre-law.
Okay, let's see.
We kind of talked about this in our first episode, and so we can ask him one. Okay, so since we're talking about pre-law, May and I talked about this in our first episode that has not yet aired. We would love if you check that out. Please get our views up. Thank you. But we talked about how just honestly costing it is, obviously like mentally, financially, but specifically financing to not only think about going to law school, but to put forth the effort to apply, whether it's applications, making sure you secure even fee waivers to combat those application fees, whether the school has their own fees that they need you to do, a seat deposit. And so for you to be someone who obviously had the support with the LEAD program in Dillard, and then even then when you got to law school being a grader and kind of knowing the ins and outs of admissions, what do you think pre-law students should know about the financial investment investment of law school? Because you kind of talked about that too, the ROI. So in general, what do you think pre-law students should know about the financial investment of going to law school and ultimately becoming a lawyer too as well?
In terms of studying or in terms of paying for actual law school?
Oh, in terms of money, yeah, financial, all of it, honestly, yeah.
Yeah, like the whole package. Applying, and then like the cost in law school too, like all of it. The financial investment, like the total, the cumulative investment in law school.
So I'll say this first, for applying and that taking the test and fee waivers and all that stuff. First, I would say build relationships in that community with the legal associations there while you're there. If you've got a good relationship with those folks, bless you, they will be good mentors to you and for you your time there. There will be, if you have struggles paying for the LSAT or paying for study programs, just ask those attorneys that you have those relationships with. Hey, attorney so-and-so with this bar association here in this town that I go to school at. Can you help me? Can you help me find some money to go to do this? Or can you find some of your colleagues? Because I'm an attorney and don't mind asking my other lawyer friends to give me some money. I'm like, I got this student this summer. I got a text say, hey, this kid wants to go to mock trial camp. And I was like, okay, boom, let's work it out. Right. So even if they don't have a relationship,
I paid for a few LSATs.
Even if I don't have a relationship with the person got a relationship with me. So, so ask that, like, let's hop around and figure out how we can do it. So I'll say that. So that's first, figure out how to get that. But if you can't afford to get that in, but if you can, do it. And then I would say study hard so you can have some leverage when it comes time to applying to schools. Schools waive my application fee and admissions fee. Columbia was waiving my fee. Howard, I don't think Berkeley had one. I mean, folks were just waiving fees, just waiving stuff, just because they want me to apply. But I did the work on the front end so I can have the ability to ask them, or they just automatically waive it on the back end. And then if you're under a certain income, LSAC will waive certain fees. So figure out how you can do that in that regard. And then if you work hard enough, not only will schools waive the fees, but they'll give you money after you apply and have already waived the fees. So it really hinges on doing what you got to do so you can make the best, have the best experience. But in the event that you do not do any of those things, I will say that you just have to take out loans. It's the harsh reality, but it's what a lot of folks do. And I will say do the best you can do in law school so that you can pay those loans back as quick as possible. Or take a job that will allow you to get those loans forgiven. I think that's just the simplest answer.
That continues to exist.
That is also true. Now that I think about it, work hard. All I can say is work hard. Work hard.
All right.
No, that's real though, because I will say, even when I was applying to law school, honestly, if you just ask, like if you just email the admissions team, like, girl, I need a fee waiver. I mean, don't say that.
They're gonna send it to you. Nope.
Ideally,
don't say that.
Don't say that. I want to be clear, but they'll give it to you because ultimately, like, the goal I've learned, especially as we were going, even May and I going through the admissions period, like, it's worth a shot. Even if you think like, okay, this school is maybe like 2 out of my league, or maybe this school is below me. Like, everyone has I forgot the word it's called, but everyone has a kind of base school that they want to go to. And then sometimes you shoot for some that are a little bit above that and some a little bit below that. But either way, like, I agree.
think it's reach, safe,
right.
and then what's underneath safe.
I don't know the terms, but one of those. And then you ultimately decide that, like, it's worth a shot because sometimes it works out that you don't get into your base one and your safe one and you get into your reach, or that you don't get into your lower one and you get into your base. Like, things are just it's like a lottery sometimes, but I totally agree. And I think all of us, we talked about even how elitist the field can be. And so unfortunately, it is true, like, some lawyers do take out loans, but some can get scholarships. I mean, we all here got scholarships, you know what I mean? So it's very possible. And I feel like even us talking about how real it is to pay for law school, pay for stuff in law school, pay to support yourself after law school, or even when it comes to like bar associations and things like that, it's important to see that on the off chance, like, there are people who took out loans, great attorneys, great law students, people who got scholarships, great attorneys, great students. So just depends on.
That's real. It's like that piece with the scholarship too. It's like that Thanksgiving plate is the essential metaphor, because people are building that plate. If that plate already got a bunch of food on it, then now they can't. Also, I guess the better metaphor would be they're scooping out macaroni at the pan, right? And the people who apply first and early and often, they get larger slices, larger
You get that
pieces of
corner
macaroni.
piece.
Right,
Yes.
you know what I mean?
Yes.
But now, if you applying your application coming in later in the cycle, you ask for that fee waiver later in the cycle, the macaroni gone. They got some potato salad over here, you know what I mean? They may have macaroni next year, but they ain't got none for this one. So you got to think about that and be diligent about just asking.
Yeah.
I'll ask this because I'll go ahead, Traylon. You got something to say?
Just yeah.
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 I'll add to that and say I think one of the things that we try to balance all the time is not to discourage people from going to law school, but to be realistic about it. Because I think that sometimes
Discouragement, that's what I call it.
I think sometimes we have this negative optimism about people just in their chances of being lawyers and being realistic. So what would you say are some warning signs that law school might not be the right path for somebody?
Yeah.
Especially in the pre-law space.
So anytime somebody calls me and says, hey, Traylon, I want to go to law school, whether you have I got a friend, she also went to Prairie View, is an engineer, had a master's degree in engineering, is a brilliant lady. She and I went to school together. And said, hey, Traylon, I'm going to go to law school. I was like, hell no, instantly. Like, what? I'm like, some folks love school. I'm like, why don't you get a PhD or something? And then I had somebody tell me the other day, I want to go to law school, but only to get the JD and not to practice, not to be a practicing attorney.
I've heard that so many times.
I
said,
law
wow.
school ain't worth that. Law school's too.
It's not.
I said, well, if you've got $300,000 to blow, then go for it. But if you don't,
and 3 years to waste,
and 3 years to cry, to be confused, to feel empty and disgusted and all the things that come along with law school. Seriously, man. I mean, I was like, I'm not even an emotional person. I was in law school crying. I'm like, I felt like I was like waiting to exhale. I'm like,
Joe
going through
it up.
Law school was hell.
Picked it up. Yeah.
Hey, so I'm like, yeah, but anyway, so what the signs for me are this. I live by this principle called the fractions of life. And nobody wants a mixed fraction. Nobody wants the numerator to be higher than the denominator. So on the numerator, the denominator is the why, that thing that makes you get up out of the bed every single morning. Like my why, I've already told you at the beginning, but my numerator may be that I'm tired. So I'm going to sleep in the bed. I'm going to miss my torts class. So my why ain't big enough. My denominator ain't big enough. Or is it that I'm, your why has to be so powerful that you push through no matter what. Now I believe that everybody's got a purpose, and sometimes your purpose just sends you places that you didn't plan to go. But in general, I think that your denominator has to be so strong that you will go through this process and be glad that you went through it and say, honestly speaking, I would go through law school all over again if I had to, because it means that I can do what I want to do. And that's my why. Now, if you say you want to go to law, I've heard people say, I want to go to law school because I want to change the world. And I said, what the hell does that mean? Or I want to go to law school because I want to speak for people who can't speak for themselves. I said, okay, what does that mean?
A policy degree.
Or you can go learn American Sign Language. Like, what are we talking about? Right?
Wait, I don't think.
No, that's a new one.
Yeah.
Do y'all know sign language?
No, I don't know. Low key, yeah.
Hey, if they can figure out the sign language and then translate it to me, then you speaking for somebody who I can't speak with. Huh? Okay, I'm just saying. So I'm like, what is that? What do those things mean to me? They sound wonderful, but what does that mean when you're sitting up at 2 a.m. and you're outlining or going over your outline? So to the signs. The signs are you don't have a good enough reason. And a good enough reason is not,
why.
Yeah, you got a bad why. And a good why is going to be very clear, and it's going to be very evident, because you can talk about it all day. You can write about it all day, and you dream about it, sleep about it, think about it, eat it. That's number one. Number two is that all the things that you don't have enough focus. All the things that it takes to get an attorney, to become an attorney, you don't have. You can't sit down long enough to study for the LSAT. You don't have good grades. You don't have the LSAT score. You don't have the ability to talk to the admissions recruiter. You've got to have it. And in many ways, it's an elitist profession, but the process is the way it is because you've got to be able to survive once you get out. And so when you have that curve at that school, it's not because they really just want their numbers to be great. In some ways it is, in many ways it is. But they also want to know, if I put you out here with my name on your wall, can you do what you say you're going to do? And can you represent me in a great way? Really, seriously. It's like, that's part of it. But at the same time, can you be successful? I don't want you to come here and spend 3 years in law school, get out and say, I hate it here. It's tough on purpose. And so if you can't do all the things, the second thing is, if you can't do all the things that attorneys do, that's a bad sign. And lastly, I would say is, if you're too immature, if you can't wake up on time and do what you got to do, if you can't say, I got to skip lunch to get this done, you shouldn't be there. If your mama and your daddy is calling you to do this, that, and the third, you probably shouldn't be. Because you're not going to be able to get saved in law school. Now, when you get in the profession, if you got an assistant and a paralegal, then go for it, brother and sister, and non-gender conforming people. For now,
conclusion.
You got it. Yeah, I learned a few things out there on the West Coast. You got to do what you got to do to be successful. And if you can't do that, if you're doing those things that immature people do, then you shouldn't be going to law school. So I would say those are the three things. But yeah, I discourage people from going to law school. I don't know any other way to put it. It's discouraging. I'm saving you money. And I told my friend with the science and engineering degree, I said, you are doing things, you are living in other people's dreams right now. There are people who wish they could be a Black engineer, a Black woman engineer, bag ASS Black woman engineer. And you want to go to law school, and that's great and that's fine and dandy. But think about it. It'll be the most expensive mistake you've ever made in your life, besides not wearing a Trojan when you should have.
Wow.
Lord have mercy. To that second point, I think that is such a true statement. I say all the time, nothing you study for on the LSAT will appear in law school. Nothing. Yeah. But what will be there, what is consistent in the preparation for the LSAT, for a final exam, and for the bar exam, is the commitment you have to have to yourself. Nobody's holding your hand. Yeah, like that is a fact. Nobody is going to make you do anything in law school. You have to want it. You have to choose this profession before you get admitted to law school. You have to choose it every day in law school. You have to choose it every day as a practitioner, because nobody's going to do it for you. You know what I mean?
When you become an attorney, Christina's gone and there's no money to pay her.
Christina's gone.
It's just you.
Christina's gone.
Are you hungry?
Yeah. And you can't pay her.
Okay.
You don't have any money to pay
your things and some of hers, and she left.
She left. No,
that's law school.
Though. Because I feel like law school, it's a very odd thing. I called it like, you have to be confidently humble. You know what I mean? Like, you have to know that you're going to be wrong. You're not always going to know it. So my professor told me, if you knew everything about the law, you wouldn't be here. You'd be teaching me. Okay, girl. Good one. Good one. Because I don't know anything. I don't know nothing. But you do that. I totally agree with y'all. Like, law school is set up that way so that when you graduate, you're not out there second guessing yourself. There's not really imposter syndrome, because it's like, if I could do that, I can do anything. Even when people are taking the bar, I tell them, you've done the hard part. You've graduated law school. You've done the 3 years. You've done the finals. You've got the grades. You came back. You didn't get dismissed. You weren't on probation. Like, all the little mini hurdles to get to this point, you've done. Like, the hard part is that. But also, it's a matter of, like, getting into the field and knowing that. You've been working with, like, there's players who have been here for years, decades, who really think they are the law. They think they're everything, if not a Supreme Court justice. You know what I mean? And so then you come to the terms of, like, okay, there's still a little bit of humility when you're starting off as, like, a baby attorney or a junior attorney. But ultimately, it's never about, oh, I can't do this, or, like, I'm not good enough. Because, like, well, in law school, like, you've had that discipline. You've had the time to think about, if I'm not going to do this and it's not going to get done, you can't bring that to when you become an attorney, because then it's like, well, you'll lose your job. You're not going to get paid. You're not going to get that next opportunity or that next job. And so I think all of those things that y'all said make sense, because it really does build you up to actually be a functioning and good attorney.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, final question. I know we're running up on time. We done held you too long. We holding up too long.
We talking.
But we'll say final question. I'll ask about sorry, I stole that one. But I'll ask about one, because you do have a different perspective from both of us, in that you went to a T14 law school. If people don't know what that is, that's a law school that is Berkeley's T14, correct? Or they don't do rankings no more, but
is a monkey.
And he also went to the number one. It is the number one civil rights, or is it the number one public interest law school in the country? I want to get that right.
No, I think number 2 in con law. I think behind Yale. It's like either number 1 con law or number 2 civil rights or something like that. Something like that. It's a specialized school.
1 or 2. Okay.
T14 law school. And so I want you to, what advice do you have for pre-law students in our situation, pre-law students who may come from a school like Maia and I, where there's not a program that's robust, that is developing young leaders to get into law school, or people in your situation who are a part of this program that is preparing them to get into law school, but or just a Black pre-law student who may have questions about their capability or their ability to get to those institutions that seem so far out of reach, right? You've been able to get into some spaces that we've talked about in the profession that are deemed to be elite, a federal clerkship, this T14 law school. Speak life into someone who may be listening to this podcast and may be wondering, do I have what it takes to be in those spaces?
Yeah. So first thing is that if my story hasn't taught you anything, it should teach you that you should not be afraid to shoot your shot. Every opportunity I have has come from me shooting my shot. When I got to Dillard, I got a full tuition scholarship to go to Dillard, and I got that because I got up one morning, went all the way down to Gentilly Boulevard and stepped foot on Dillard's campus and talked to the pre-law director, and my scholarship got increased. I went to Berkeley Law School for free because I got it in the scholarship program, and I knew the scholar. Well, that sounds like nepotism, but it's really not. I did earn it, but I knew the director of the program from a different program that I participated in. I got the clerkship because I asked on Facebook and had made those connections. Build relationships and shoot your shot. Even if you don't know the person, you don't know the admissions director, you don't know the attorney, you don't know the judge, send a cold email, send a cold text, walk up to that person at the end of the event, stay behind, come early, do what you have to do and shoot your shot. That's number 1, because you never know where that door will lead you. Number 2 is that all of these statistics and folks on TikTok and YouTube and this book and this person and that person says, I've got to have this so I can get into that school. I'm like Lisa Page, the devil is a liar. Yeah. That's what I tell them. Like, oh, I need a 170 to get into Harvard. I'm like, yeah. I had a 157 and I went to, at the time, it was the number 9 law school. I had a 157. I was nowhere near 170. I was high. I was on the high end of Black students, but I was on the low end of applicants in general. I had a 4.0 grant, and I graduated law school in 3 years. And at the time, I was assistant secretary to the NAACP. I had other things going. I'm not saying that that's going to be your story, but I am saying that you don't have to have a 170 to be there. And so I would say that you should dream big and make sacrifices. I studied 20 hours a day. 20 hours a week when I was studying for the LSAT. And thankfully, COVID happened and I had no other choice but to even dig in even deeper because I was at home every day studying for the LSAT. Now, granted, I could have been watching all the TV shows and playing my PlayStation and doing God knows what.
Getting big like the rest of us.
Well, I was getting big too, but I was studying. Studying and getting big. So make that sacrifice. But I think that it's just the numbers are real. They're there for a reason, but make those sacrifices, and so you can do what you got to do. That was my third point was the sacrifice. I joined my fraternity in 2019, and it cost me upwards of $2,000. Some of these admissions, I mean, LSAT prep programs cost upwards of $700 and $800. They are worth it. I'm not saying everybody was in a fraternity or a sorority, so I ain't saying everybody got the money to pay for that, so you can pay for this. But you pay for that, so you can pay for this. Well, kind of. But what I'm saying is, pay for what you want to pay for, because it's investment. This $700 investment could save you $300,000.
Yeah.
And for some people, and I'm just talking about room, board,
and
tuition,
really more
etc.
than that, because $300,000 with interest is $500,000.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So one, shoot your shot, build those relationships. Two, the numbers are the numbers, but they ain't your numbers. Three, sacrifice and do what you got to do to set yourself up. And then four, it happens to all of us. We get rejected, we get accepted. And at the end of the day, you'll end up where you're supposed to be. I had no intentions on ever living in California, but I was miserable for several months, a long time. Long
periodically time.
periodically time. But I made it. And I look back and I'm grateful I did it. And I say that to say that it'll work out. Like, somebody told me one time, in the end, everything will be okay. And if it ain't okay, it ain't the end. So
there you go.
That's good.
Thank you so much, Traylon. Woo, woo, woo. There's some clapping in here. We appreciate your time, brother. Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you.
And if you enjoyed this episode of Raising the 5%, be sure to follow, like, and subscribe to us on all platforms. Traylon, tell the folks how they get in contact with you. Do you want to be contacted?
That's the first question.
That was a good question.
That's the first question.
I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. I mean, you can just type my first name in. Nobody has the same first name as me, spelled like me. So you just type my first name in, I pop up everywhere.
So unique.
Okay.
And we'll be sure to tag him in the comment descriptions for this episode. So be sure to interact with him.
Don't add me on TikTok.
Hit him on LinkedIn first. That's the professional space. And then, we'll go from there. We thank y'all for listening. As usual, if you have questions, you know how to get in contact with us. We're your hosts, Maydrian Lowe.
Maia Young.
And we'll see y'all next time. Peace, love, and light.